The round 3 of the Spillenberger Open is over, and today Levy Rosman, aka gothamchess, he had to play 2 games, essentially enduring a very tough start. In the first game of the day, he played a draw. He was basically playing for 5 hours. He missed a couple of chances to play for the victory. And the pairing for the round 3 was not really great because he was paired against Shaikh Arsh, the young talent from India who is age 15, rated country 2200. But all you need to know is that his performance in the tournament so far has been 2400. So clearly the guy plays better than his rating indicates. Also, last year he won a scholarship in India, which was reported by ChessPass India by defeating players like Arjunari Gaisi. Also, the Miraj Gukesh was participating there, so that's definitely not your average player to me today. And what we agreed to before the start of the game, I suggested Levy to be patient, take it slow, play sort of boring chess and try to get the game to the end game, because my logic was that Shaikh most likely is a very good calculator. He might have a very good prep, and we decided that probably the best course of action is to play the Ratty opening. So knight f3 was played by Levy, d5 we expected. We were considering also g3 as potential way to keep the Ratty as one of the options. Levy decided to play e3. This is something he already has played before in a couple of previous tournaments, so he has ideas like c4, knight c3, queen c3, maybe also b3, bishop b2 becomes an option. And we're not really sure what to expect, but definitely not bishop g4. And during the live broadcast, I was speculating maybe Shaikh actually mixed up the position with g3, bishop g4, and bishop g2. It felt to be quite unlikely to happen, but I had never seen bishop g4 before, and so did also Levy say after the game. It was news to him. So the point of bishop g4, what this feels to be rather dubious, because now after c4, white wants to play queen b3 and apply some pressure against not only the black's pawn on d5, but also the pawn on b7. So c6 was played. Queen b3 was Levy's response. Okay, you could argue maybe he could have started with c takes on d5 first. For example, c takes on d5, c takes on d5 on queen b3, which in some lines is slightly better because queen b6, now you just grab the pawn on d5. But again, black could play queen c7, hit the bishop on c1, and after knight c3, probably bishop f3 is necessary because if you play e6, you can blunder the bishop. So queen a4 check, very common trick. So bishop f3, g takes on e6. Could have been something similar to the game. d4, bishop d2, bishop d3, rook c1. Black is pretty solid. White is pushing. So Levy played queen b3, which is okay move. Now the point here is that after queen b6, here Levy had some ideas. He decided to play c takes on d5. I was quite not happy with the spend time on the move because I felt this kind of choice requires you a bit more time than 3 minutes. And I think here Levy should have considered some other choices as well. I was considering knight e5, hitting the bishop on g4. Now the idea here is that after bishop f5, c takes on d5 becomes suddenly quite a thing. So the pawn on d5 is under attack. And after queen b3, a takes on b3, c takes on d5, you need to watch out for moves like knight c3, e6, and knight b5, which is essentially what happened in the game, but with the knight and the bishop on the board. So knight a6 is rook a6, and knight c7 feels even stronger. So of course it could have been a different game because black could play bishop e6, the game would have been more fighting. So Levy decided to play the c takes on d5, maybe also queen b6 and then take c takes on d5 was a worthy alternative, leaving black with weakened pawns. Alright, so Levy plays c takes on d5, queen b3. Now bishop f3 is an important intermezzo move. The point is c takes on d5 again is knight e5, knight c3, and bishop b5. Suddenly black has some problems to defend the queen side. So that's why this is necessary move. C takes on d3, knight c3, e6, knight b5. And I think that mainly what Levy was expecting here was the move king d7. And this is also what I was suggesting during the broadcast. I was thinking rook a7, takes. Black is going to play something like, I'm not sure, bishop b4, you go back, black is going to go here, king d1, knight f6, d4. So white has a pawn, but it's a double pawn, and black is pretty solid. So I was expecting this, Levy is expecting this. And now, along the lines I said, knight a6 makes no sense, because you can always just sacrifice the exchange and play knight c7. And actually, this happened. So this was a major shock to me, and also to the audience, and also to Levy. Because what's the idea? I mean, can't Levy just sacrifice the rook, as Levy likes to pronounce, with the idea to play knight c7 check and just win an extra piece? Also, the pawn on a6 is under attack. But actually, it's not so simple. Because I checked the database, doing the broadcast, people have played this before. So there's been a game, bishop e4, bishop a6, the knight f6. You cannot save the knight. Bishop b7 is going to be rook b8. You lose the bishop, then you lose the knight. Not great. And I was thinking maybe there's some ideas like king d1, rook a8, d4, rook b8, bishop d3, a5. You cannot develop your bishop because the pawn on b3 is under attack. I suppose bishop c2, g6, bishop d2, and play something like this. And I couldn't really understand if white has anything real, but it made sense to go here. So Levy spent a great deal of time because he wanted to play rook a6. This would have been very nice content for him. But ultimately, I think he made a very mature decision not to do it. Even though maybe engines are going to favor it, I think this was a very, very brave move by Levy. Now the point is that he tries to rely on the knight on a6 as a bad piece. He wants to play moves like bishop d3, bishop d3, king d2, and apply some pressure at the a file. But after bishop b4 check, I don't know what happened here. Levy stepped back, knight c3, allowing this knight to escape. I was wondering why not bishop d2, with the idea that after bishop d2, king d7, white is apparently still pushing. Maybe now there's going to be a better moment play, knight c3 at some point, but probably it's still not enough. So Levy decided to go here, knight c7 and rook a4. So this was a very nice idea that if the bishop goes away, Levy wants to play b4, b5. For example, let me show you a couple of lines, b4, b5, bishop d2, bishop d3, king e2, rook a1. And there's very serious pressure on the pawn on a7. White has two bishops, wants to play e4, and white is calling the shots. So this was a nice idea, but black played correctly a5, so nothing of this sort works. Bishop d2, bishop d3, these were pretty good moves. King e2 as well. And black was just setting up a very solid defense. And maybe this knight b5 was a bit, again, too hasty decision. He could have played rook a1 first, apply some pressure, then only play knight b5, keeping the position more uncertain. So let me play knight b5, initiate a couple of trades, but the position still remains level. So the point is, after rook hc8, okay, maybe he could have played king b6, but the trick here is rook c1. If you play knight b4, suddenly rook c5 is quite difficult to counter. Now the point is, the knight on b4 is cute, but rook b5 is a check, and if you take it here, b4 is a big threat. If you play rook c8, how about rook a5? Yeah, you see, if any of the rooks are being taken, the other rook falls. So this was a very nice idea, and mainly Levy was trying to get to the endgame because this was all our pre-game strategy. Try to get the opponent to an endgame because he's a youngster, probably a good calculator. Maybe the endgames is something where he doesn't quite feel very secure. So h4 was a good attempt, try to trade one of the weaknesses. h5, very responsible move by Shaikh. I was not sure about this because these pawns in the endgame might actually become a major target for the bishop. Rook c1, king d6, f4, I like this move. At about here, Shaikh made the first inaccuracy, he played knight b4, which is a beautiful place for the knight. But the thing is, he lacks any play. And Levy already was thinking about f3, e4, king e3, activate the rook, and take over the game at a king set. So Shaikh understood that he needs to rearrange his knight. He played knight e7. Maybe here, actually, I would like f3 a bit more, with the idea to meet knight e7 to d4 and ask black some direct questions. I really like this position for white. Rook a1, king e3, any rook c3, b takes on c3. This feels like some sort of a great ninja position for white, but obviously black is pretty solid to keep the balance. So rook a1 was played on bishop d3, and here Shaikh should have played knight f5 with the idea that bishop f5, g takes on f5 open up the g file, so this is pretty dangerous for black. But d takes on f5, rook c1, now he takes on c3 and plays b5. So maybe this is what the young Indian wanted, but he decided to play rook c3 immediately. Now the big difference is that after knight f5, Levy was not in time to play f3, e4 because black is always organizing counterplay at the queen side. So bishop f5 was a good move. At g takes on f5, rook g1, engines say that this is somehow equal, but you gotta definitely sense the danger that the young Indian felt in this position. The pawn is weak, this pawn is getting nowhere, and if white wins the pawn in h5, white might just win the game. So black decided not to do it. He played e takes on f5. And after c4, here we got a feeling that Levy was taking over the game. Now, why is this? Because he's threatening to take on d5 at some point and take over the c file. And after king c6, now this was probably the only moment when Levy had winning chances in the game. So black is threatening b5. And the only thing how white can make a progress is keep the c file open. So king d3 is necessary to make some progress with the pawns. And then black pushes b5. It was quite difficult to find this resource. C takes on b5, rook c1 take over the c file, and after king b4, a rook c3. With the idea to play king c2, free the rook, and then try to bother those pawns. So the game is still quite level. For example, a4, b takes, rook a4, rook c7, and engine somehow finds this to be a draw. But I think you can agree that if somebody's pressing this position, it's only Levy. Well, unfortunately, he didn't find it. He played a human move, king c3. And now the point is that after b5, black is threatening to play b takes on c4 a couple of times, and c5 creates white to pass pawn at the queen side. But the problem is there's no progress. Black will play b4, king b5, and white just cannot crash through. It's a nice pawn, but it feels like a fortress. So Levy decided to continue the fight. He played f3, which was a great practical move, threading some king d3, e4 ideas, and now the game suddenly got really sharp. b4 check, king d3, and d takes on c4. And here Levy decided not to risk it, because b takes on c4 was a very, very difficult move to make in a time scramble. For example, a4, e4. What is this? So engines prefer slightly black by finding king b6, king f5, walking away from these pawns, but you gotta agree, it looks very scary. King c2, king a5, king b2, black is not moving those pawns forward, b3, king a3, a3, king b3, relieve the rook, and somehow this position is, I mean, engine says it's a lot better for black, but probably still level. Insane stuff. So Levy played king c4, and I was getting a bit nervous for Levy here because black's idea is pretty obvious here to get to the pawn on b3. Levy had seen it from afar, and after rook c3, he can actually afford to be passive. So he played rook b1, and black couldn't make progress. f6, rook b2, rook b1, rook b2, rook b1. Levy is just asking, do your worst. The point is, black cannot do it, because if he plays a4, king a4, this leaves the pawn on d5 unattended, d6, the king is not in time to stop it, and if you play something like rook c8, e4, e5, white is simply winning the game. There was also a very curious moment when black could have tried to deliver mate in 1 with rook d2 check, but after e4, again, white charges forward and creates a very powerful center, giving him very good winning chances. Maybe I should mention that immediately e4 here is probably not quite working, because let's say after e4, the pawn on f3 is dropping. So that's one of the downsides. And the game finished in a draw. They repeat the position a couple of times, here and there, here and there. Draw was agreed. Overall, it was a very tough day for Levy, but I think he fought well in both games. Probably he's a bit disappointed by his missed winning opportunities in the second round against a player from Ecuador. He should have won the game. Here against Shaikh, I think he was very nicely following the pre-match strategy, tried to get to the endgame, tried to grind it out. And at some point, it already felt pretty close because, again, at this critical moment, When he played King C3, he got 20 minutes versus 7 minutes. Unfortunately, King C3 was played a bit too fast. So after King D3, he would have kept some winning chances, but still objectively, the game was quite drawn. The action will continue on the next day with round number 4. It will start 3:15 Central European Summertime. I will be Levy's host on his YouTube and Twitch channels. We had a huge audience following today, about 18,000 concurrent viewers. So there's a massive interest in Levy's performance. So we wish him best of luck and come back tomorrow to watch it live.